All right, welcome to How to Grow as a Medical Educator, a Stanford EdTech podcast series recorded in the Stanford Medicine Studio. In each episode, we talk with faculty who are actively experimenting, reflecting, and evolving in their teaching. Our goal is to bring to light the stories, habits, and practical strategies behind their growth, so the medical educators everywhere can learn alongside them. My name is Adam Hain. Today I'm joined by Grace Sextro and Teggin Summers from our EdTech team. Let's go into today's conversation. So today, we're joined by Dr. Christopher Gardner, who is a professor of medicine at Stanford University and the director of nutrition studies at the Stanford Prevention Research Center. Over his 30-year career, he has become one of the nation's leading experts on dietary behaviors, optimal health, and sustainable food systems. Today we're going to be talking about some of the approaches that Christopher takes to teaching and different projects that you've worked on over the course of that time. So welcome.
This should be fun. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Let's start off with the recent Netflix documentary that you worked on and were a huge part of. Can you kind of describe the premise of it for the audience?
Sure. It's funny. I get way more credit for that than I deserve. We were approached by the producer who had actually proposed this to Netflix in advance. And this is the same producer who actually got an Oscar for a documentary called The Cove, which was the slaughter of dolphin in Japan. He then moved on and did Game Changers, which was a bunch of vegan athletes. And during that particular documentary, a bunch of people gave him grief and said, these are just one-off stories. These are anecdotes. Too bad it's not a scientific study. And so he took that as a challenge. He said, if I did a scientific study, let me think. I would want there to be a vegan diet as part of the study. And I think I should have identical twins. And this is what he approaches with just that. A diet study. It has to have vegans. It has to have twins, identical twins. And then I don't know anything about science, Christopher, so you make it up. And I picked you because you work closely with the Sonnenbergs, and I'm really fascinated with the whole microbiome thing and diet. So let's just sit down and negotiate. And so we negotiated what this would be. And I at first said, you are nuts. Recruitment is the hardest thing of a study. And now you want me to recruit identical twins? Like, could you possibly make my life any harder? So they helped us with the twins. They said they would help us more than they did. But in the end, it turned out that Stanford has inherited a twin registry from SRI. So SRI, which is no longer in the same form it used to be, the Stanford Research Institute. And Mark Davis has been in charge of it. Mark Davis is an immunologist. He runs the Human Immune Monitoring Center. He's been an awesome partner for years. Anyway, that's how we got most of the twins. 4 of the pairs of twins were selected by the producer as being particularly photogenic, to be perfectly honest. And there's a South African pair of women from San Francisco that are hilarious, and 2 guys he flew in from the East Coast, and a pair of cheese-making twins from Berkeley, and this really wonderful Asian pair from the Bay Area. And a lot of people saw the documentary and said, wow, what a wonderfully representative group you had. So if you looked at the other pairs of twins, almost all of them were white women. So it was not really that representative. But it did use up all the funds we had to try to recruit people, get them into this study where the premise was we would take identical twins and randomly assign one to go vegan and one to stay omnivorous for 8 weeks. And we would bleed them and poop them and measure them and question them. And they would film them. So the producer said, we'll come film the beginning of this, the randomization, the big reveal when they opened up their envelopes that said whether they were vegan or omnivore. And we'll photograph some of the blood taking. And then we'll go away and we'll travel around the world and we'll take some pictures and you run the study and we'll come back at the end. And we'll show a participant result of what happened after that. And then you need to hand this off to us quickly. I had forgotten that he mentioned this, but he said, we have coordinated, this is the fall of 22. We've coordinated with Netflix to release this on January 1st, 2024. And I said, why? And he said, well, that's when people make New Year's resolutions. So,
Uh-huh.
and in order to do that, we have to edit all of 2023. So I'm sorry, no, this is the fall of 2021, because he said, I'll give you the money in January of 2022. You have to finish the study in 6 months. You have to analyze the results in the end of the year. We need all of 2023 to edit it, and then we'll put it out there. So we did this study. 23 out of 24 pairs finished the whole study. They were a blast to work with, super fun. We had a results presentation to the participants in the fall of 2022. Yep. And then they went off and did their editing. And to be honest, we sort of forgot about the whole production. And we knew they had been going to a lot of different places. And so we thought, maybe we were just a side shot and maybe we'll get dropped and we'll be on the editing floor and nobody will ever see us. But we should publish this. And so we worked all through 2023 and we got published in JAMA Network Open. This is actually not one of our best designs. It was very small and very short. And I had this little epiphany here, which was I had thought that the producer, had said, get identical twins, because what a cool twist scientifically. These pairs of research participants are genetically matched. That comes up sometimes. Is this just due to genetics? And so I thought, wow, it was hard getting them, but he got them. And maybe that's why JAMA took this paper. I've run longer, more intricate studies with more people. And I said, well, we submitted it and they took it. Maybe they really like this genetic thing. Oh my God, the producer's a genius, a scientific genius, even though he's a producer. And it was funny because it finally came out in November 2023 and we got so much feedback and a lot of love and some criticism that I really completely forgot about the movie. And so then it was December. This came out in November. December, he said, we're having a screening of the movie. It's mid-December. Please show up at the Presidio, and it'll be released in 2 weeks. And I said, what? I'm not even available that day. You picked a day and I'm not available? Wow. Oh, my God, I'm going to be in San Diego. I took an early flight. I rushed home. I caught the last 5 minutes of the documentary. And some of our partners were there. And so I said, so were we in it? We were like, did we get caught? Were we in any of it? And they said, oh my God, we were like the central theme through the whole 6-hour thing. And I said, did we look stupid at all? Or did they catch us doing anything weird? And they said, no, seriously, it came out pretty good. So I had never really actually seen it. I was still dealing with the paper and feedback and went away for a holiday break. And I was in Hawaii. And my wife says, quick, come out. I said, why? She said, you're third on Netflix. So it was the top 10 of Netflix, and there's us. And I immediately realized he didn't want the twins for the science. He wanted the twins for the entertainment value. Twins are so entertaining. People love staring at them. So it was just a marvelous experience all the way around, but it really was 2.5 years. He approached us in the fall of 2020 when it got released in 2024. And what I learned subsequently was that 50 million people watched it in January.
Wow.
And then more since then. And I sort of looked at, I'm a fairly good scientist. Some of my papers have been in big journals. And there is no way, if you put all my papers together for my whole life, that 50 million people read my scientific papers. So in this one fell swoop, more people got exposed to our work than anything we had ever done. Not the best, and I've loved giving talks about this, saying it probably wasn't our best science, but the communication side of this was super novel, and it was fun, and it was exciting to talk about it, which meant it drew more criticism because 50 million people saw it, but even sort of engaging in social media and trying to figure out how to appropriately respond to criticism and how to humbly take praise. And I had neighbors left and right stopping me, saying, wait, I switched to soy milk because of you. Wait, we're not eating this anymore. So very, very fun. And one of the ways I've been framing this in talks is, are we dumbing down the science or are we making it more accessible? And it's really not an either or question or answer. We are making it more simplistic and it is to a certain extent dumbed down and oversimplified. But other than getting a few tweets that were harshly critical, we got a lot of love. And my favorite was from somebody who said, this is the best science communication I've seen in a decade. This is absolutely fabulous. They didn't even know, the people watching it, that they were watching science. That's part of the best part of it. And I learned that the person posting this tweet was one of the ones who got the COVID vaccine out.
Oh, wow.
So it was a Harvard professor. And I could only empathize with their frustration that after all that time getting it out so quickly, there were people not taking the vaccine because they were afraid of the science behind it and the things that people were injecting them with. So it really meant a lot to have somebody talk about the science communication value of the documentary, and it just wrestling with that approach. And there are pros and cons. It was really fun, the whole process. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah. Well, we were going to ask about something around that too. So, you had the paper coming out just before. You said, what were some of the challenges that you felt in translating what the results are of the paper into that sort of entertainment Netflix format? Did they do that, or did you have conversations about how much data to present?
So we only took the data from the 4 people. So this is part of it.
Okay.
I mean, what was really shown on film was either me or Justin Sonnenberg saying, hey, participant, here's this thing that we measured, and it went up or down. That's totally anecdotal. That was one pair of people. Yeah. So at a couple points, we felt a little awkward and uncomfortable that we were just sharing one at a time. But we did state the overall conclusions and the things that happened on average, and I'm having a little hard time thinking back of everything we said, but sure. I don't think we ever felt really compromised. I don't really feel like we were selling bad science. Certainly whenever we talked about the paper on our own, we would have plenty of caveats. But in the movie, they sort of glanced over some aspects and made it seem more simple. And it wasn't cringeworthy. I didn't say, oh my God, oh, that's terrible. But if I'd had more time, and then I could tell immediately there was this balance. Like, if we had really given all the inside baseball on this, the TV would be off right now.
Yeah, you want to have accuracy, but not all the detail.
Yeah.
So that, just wrestling with that, and even just thinking about, not even wrestling with it, just thinking about the balance of keeping people engaged, not having them turn it off, and trying to get through a message. So I don't think the message was compromised, but there were social media people who looked at it and said, oh, we don't like the vegan thing, and so we're going to bring this up and that up and the other thing that they didn't do. In fact, it led to one very simple thing the paper did. So the vegans lost more weight than the omnivores. And we had a graphic. We were asking everybody what they were eating. And in our paper in JAMA, we published the types of calories, proteins, carbs, and fats, and the number of calories. And in one of the graphics, somebody said, you've done poor science. I can see from the graphic that when you delivered meals, because part of the design of the study was for 4 weeks, we delivered meals so they'd catch on really quickly. And that's more of the efficacy side of the study. And for 4 weeks, they had to cook on their own. They had to buy their own food, prepare it. And so in the first 4 weeks in this graphic, it was actually kudos to the reader who looked at this. It was in the supplement, wasn't even in the main paper. And he said, I can see you gave the participants fewer calories. That caused them to lose weight. So you can't conclude it was the diet. It could have just been the weight loss. What a poor scientist you are. It wasn't very kindly worded, right? It was a little antagonistic. And I was trying to use my communication skills. And I wrote back, this is back when Twitter was higher quality than it is now. And I actually had been doing pretty well on Twitter and writing tweets. Wait, what's the word? If you have a lot of tweets.
Retweets?
Threads.
No, there's even like a tweetology or something like that. Anyway, I posted 10 tweets and I said, wow, great job. You went to the supplement and you caught that. That was really good. I'm impressed that you went that far to look at the data. I can see how you might have misunderstood what we were publishing. We actually delivered exactly the same number of calories to both groups. What we reported was what they ate. So we didn't intentionally help them lose weight. We gave them the same number of calories that if they chose to eat less, that's part of effectiveness. Now, I can't tell it's because they didn't like the food, or maybe the vegan food was more filling. It was never designed to set that up. But great job. We did not deliver the food with a gavage, like the way they make a duck, foie pâté, whatever, pâté gras, foie gras. So we didn't force them to eat everything we gave them. That would have been a different type of study, and that actually would have been a fair question. But thank you for bringing that up. And a funny thing happened because of that also. There was a guy on social media who often gives me a hard time for some of my studies. He's very much a super low carb fan and not a vegan fan. And it was not him who criticized me in this tweet that I saw, but apparently he had slandered me also, and I hadn't noticed. And the next day, I got a Twitter video apology.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I have seen the response of Professor Gardner. I now see that I was wrong. And I want to say to the public that I was wrong in my criticism. I take it back. I still have some other issues with the study, but on this matter, I was wrong. And I have to tell you, that was almost as satisfying as the whole Netflix thing, to see this courteous social exchange of ideas. So again, it's when you're communicating science, there's so many different ways you can interpret things. And so having the opportunity to make it interactive, which I can't on the documentary, it's just out there, that was also fun.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got more response from your paper because of the documentary? Did you see more response than maybe other papers you've published in the past, or more people reaching out to you just about your studies since that documentary came out in general? Do you have any more participants, do you think, in studies since that has come out?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I do have a different kind of follow-up than you're expecting. We actually got a huge response right away. So another interesting thing in science these days is altimetric scores. So I don't know if you're going to talk about this on the show or if all of you know what this is, but the traditional thing for a faculty member is who cited my work. If no one cites it, then it didn't do any good. And if everybody cites it, great, I'll be famous. But it usually takes years, sometimes decades, to see who cites your work. And you keep track of that for a long time. The altmetric score is a traditional and social media score. So the altmetric score you get is almost as high as it's ever going to get in a month. Because after that, it's not covered in the media anymore. So the altmetric score of the paper was extremely high for the whole month of November.
Okay.
It got a lot of press. I don't remember an altmetric score bump. Once the documentary came out, it could have been there, but I wasn't looking for it. And the citations, we weren't cited at all for 6 months, because somebody has to be in the middle of writing a paper and then read it and then include it and then wait till they get published. So it's done very well now, getting cited years later, but I didn't really see a bump that way. But if I can answer your question another way, of all the 1,000 emails that I got, and I egotistically read every one, and I should not have, but I am a slave to email. One of them said, I'm a member of the San Francisco Firefighters Cancer Foundation, and I really enjoyed watching the Netflix movie. Have you ever considered doing something like that in firefighters who have higher risks of most cancers than the general public? And it would have been one where I normally would have said, no, thanks for the great idea, if somebody would just give me money. But the last line said, and we have money. And the Cancer Foundation gave us $500,000.
Oh, wow.
And someone following us on social media gave us another $500,000.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
And so, because of the movie, we got $1 million for a firefighter study. And one of the ways they advertised this to the firefighters was said, it's the guy at Stanford who did the Netflix movie. So, oh my God, yes, it absolutely helped. And actually the 120th firefighter just finished last month. All the blood and poop are being sent out. We don't have the Netflix budget that we had for that, but we actually have some local documentarians who are filming the firefighters right now. So we'll do it again. It won't be at that scale. It'll be much shorter. But it was such an incredible experience being able to share the communication side of the science through film that we're really excited about this new possibility. So now we'll make a documentary every time we do a study.
Yeah.
And, okay, not
The
really,
natural conclusion, yeah.
but seems like a great way to communicate.
Yeah. That's just a great experience. And just, having watched it all, it's amazing to see that science become mainstream and you see it kind of percolate through different channels where it wouldn't normally go. Moving to a little bit into your teaching and more interactive formats, I know you teach in the practice of medicine curriculum, nutrition in the required MD program here at Stanford, and also teach an elective called the Teaching Kitchen, I believe. Mm-hmm. So lead us through some of your teaching approaches for either of these courses.
Yeah, so nutrition has never been given much priority in medical school. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much you are aware of.
A few hours, yeah.
RFK Jr. now saying unless you cover nutrition, you can't get federal funding. So there's actually, as we speak, they're developing nutrition competencies, and lots of medical schools are talking about covering it more. But we'll see what happens in the future. For quite a long time, 10 or 15 years, I've been allowed 4 sessions with a med student through the practice of medicine, which is a marvelous sort of multidisciplinary course where a lot of different topics are covered. They have a lot of standardized patients, and nutrition's just a great general topic. Everyone eats. And so if you want to have a med student interviewing a standardized patient or interviewing themselves, it's pretty easy to start with what do you eat? What might you be concerned about? I'm developing my skills looking you in the eye, not playing with my hair, not looking down and fiddling. So it's been part of practice of medicine for a long time, and I've worked with a lot of different directors of POM. They've all been super, super helpful. Right now, Poonam Hosamani is the director of it, and she's been there for 5 or 6 years now. We've been making it better and better, and it's now the best, and I actually think they're going to change it next year. Just like this is the best, the best student evaluations we've ever had. So I always pair with a clinician and a dietitian. And so I get 4 sessions, and I do proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and vitamins and minerals. And we do diabetes and heart disease and cancer and GI issues. And so I come in and I say, I'm not a physician, I'm a PhD. Let me tell you about the nutrition side of this and the nutrition science. And then here's a clinician who sees patients. And here's one who really respects nutrition and really thinks nutrition is great for preventing disease and treating disease. And here's a dietitian from the hospital who would be part of your team at some point. This dietitian trained her whole life to talk to patients and knows things that the clinician doesn't do. And it's kind of nice because the clinician kind of gushes over them and says, oh, I don't know what I'd do without the dietitians that I refer to. It's so great to have them. And the dietitians they have some fabulous case studies, some success stories, some challenges and barriers. And so doing that for our 4 sessions now is the best combination of material that we've had so far, to which I get to add, I created an online course through Stanford that's really just basic nutrition 101. It's 8 weeks of material, and we just selectively take a small portion of the carb, fat, protein, vitamin, mineral. And so that's their reading assignment. But it's online, and it's pretty good quality. And we do these 4 sessions in a team, and we've had really great feedback. And part of the latter part of each class is taking 2 to 3 cases and talking through it. And then the physician sits at one set of students, and I sit another one, the dietitian sits the other one. And then we'll say, okay, everybody's had 5 or 10 minutes. Let's share the highlights of what your group found. Okay, great. Now let's do another case. Class is over. So that one's evolved for a long time, where I just did it myself. We gave more time to the clinician. Really, the best part has been the addition of the dietitian, who really felt, we thought that would be a big burden to them. Like, oh, I know how busy you are. And the dietitian's like, thank you for including me as part of the teaching team. This is so great to be engaged this way. And I'm loving working with everybody here and having the opportunity to tell med students at this point in their career that we're here to help them. And we know a lot, and you should ask us. So it's gone over really. The head of dietetics at Stanford Hospital, Deirdre, has been just super thrilled to say, is it that time of year again? Yes, I'll put it out in an advertisement, and I'll see what dietitians want to help you. And we just had 6 of them apply to us. I have access to some funding, and we funded 6 of them to make videos. And so the dietitians have this set of videos of their favorite recipes that they cook for colleagues, patients, etc. So it's been really fun working with the med students and POM, practice of medicine.
Do you find that the students have a desire for more increased hours of nutrition teaching?
So
I know they're overwhelmed with the curriculum as a whole, but
they are overwhelmed. I would say, in my opinion, from 15 years, I'm going to grossly summarize 15 years, is nutrition is very polarizing. There are cowboy surgeons who think they will either cut it out of them or they're going to develop the poly pill and nobody will ever have to worry about diet again. And there's half the class that thinks they'll go into family medicine, integrative medicine, pediatrics, are like hanging on every word. And some in the middle. But it's clear that a bunch of them are just super interested and say it's clear that this is going to be important. And there's a bunch who don't listen at all, because that's not why they went to the School of Medicine to be a doctor. They wanted to do the cutting and the pill prescribing. So it's a mix.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's life.
And what about the teaching kitchen? Can you describe that a little bit?
So there's a larger history of this in terms of the undergraduate program had one that was funded by Jamie Oliver. We actually have a 6-acre farm at Stanford, the farm at the farm.
Yeah.
And they kind of have a working outdoor farm that can be a set of kitchen facilities that can be a teaching kitchen. But when they built CAM, the Center for Academic Medicine, there is a physician here named Michelle Hauser who's in charge of this. So Michelle was a chef before she went to Harvard Med School and before she came here as a postdoc. And now she's a faculty member in surgery, even though she practices general medicine. And what was happening, and for bariatric surgery, you are required to try to lose weight with lifestyle first. You can't just sign up for surgery. So it's like, you tried and it didn't work. So now we'll do the bariatric surgery. Anyway, this is Michelle's background being a chef has been wonderful. So she's always incorporated food and been very serious about this. And back, I think she was still a postdoc at this time, some architects walked into my office and said, the facilities people said we should talk to you. I said, about what? And they said, we're building a new building, CAM. I said, yeah, I have no idea what that means for me. And they said, well, apparently we have to build a teaching kitchen into it, and we're supposed to ask you what to do. And so I pulled in Michelle, and neither of us knew what to do. But we did look at the plans and said, well, this looks a little awkward. There's like this huge beam in the way. And they said, we'll move it. We'll move the beam. I said, oh, my God. That's so cool. And so we were trying to talk about where would the students sit and what would they face. And this is all when it's just architectural paperwork. So CAM now has a cafe Arbor.
Maybe.
Wait a sec. There's one at the
really
business
big one, right?
school. And there's one, they both start with A. Anyway, it's a really nice cafe at CAM. And they decided, this was another funny part, is I don't know how much you know about food on campus, but Stanford Dining does a lot, but they don't get everything they want. So they have to bid for every new kind of cafe that opens up.
Oh.
And they were bidding against Guggenheimer, which used to have Nexus Cafe in the Clark Center, and Bon Appetit, which does have the restaurant at the business school, and Coupa Cafe, and I think someone else. So Michelle and I were invited to something about we're picking the vendor now. I said, why are you inviting us? And they said, well, they have to work with you. I said, oh, okay. And so we thought we were just sitting in. And at one point they said, okay, Christopher, Michelle, tell them what you want. I said, what do you mean tell them what you want? I thought you just invited us to listen. And they said, no, we're quite serious about this. They would have to work with you in this shared kitchen facility. So it isn't a dedicated teaching kitchen. During the daytime, it's for breakfast and lunch. It's a cafe, and it turned out Bon Appetit got the bid. And they decided it wasn't financially feasible to do dinner. So they're only open for breakfast and lunch. So that means they're closed in the evening. So Michelle and I and others have coordinated with them, and Michelle leads all of this. Dr. Hauser leads this, and she gets about 12 med students at a time, 2 or 3 times a year. And it's not Iron Chef cooking. The first day of cooking is guacamole and salsa. And they cook a lot of things throughout the course. It's like some simple knife skills. And here's some basic techniques that you would need to make simple, easy food. And so they cook, and the cafe provides a chef and a cleaning staff. They wash all the dishes. They buy all the food. They prep a bunch of the food. Sometimes they make some of the dishes that will go with the dishes they're making. So Michelle will teach a skill and a concept. And within an hour, hour to an hour and a half, they've made a meal. And it's complemented with what the other chefs brought in. And for the last half hour, they eat together and say, if you had a patient, what would you tell them having just cooked this? Would you recommend this? How would you build in the story? What else might you recommend? And so Michelle also attracts a lot of guest physicians who have culinary prowess or not. Sometimes they're just like, I actually don't know how to cook, Michelle. This is just so cool. I want to sit in and cook with you. So she now has a whole cadre of fellow physician fans who are culinarians at heart. And so they participate as well. And so she's sort of building that community on campus. And Michelle's now the president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And she wrote a textbook on culinary medicine. It was never printed. It's online. And 4,000 people from around the world have downloaded her probably more by now, have downloaded her culinary medicine book. And a lot of it is just basic knife skills or basic pan skills, or like what temperature should this be so it doesn't stick, and how long should it be? So yeah, the teaching kitchen has been really fun. You don't get every med student through it. It should be more than med students. Someday it should be patients. It should be advanced doctors who had a long career already, but another tremendous teaching outlet at Stanford for the medical school.
Are you ever looking for volunteer tasters?
Yes, we're desperate for no one ever wants to taste the food. Thank God you asked, Adam. We will call you next week.
That's perfect. I guess we're getting a little short on time, but if you wanted to talk about some of the courses that you've designed and work with groups for your online offerings and kind of translating some of the highly experiential stuff we were talking about in the kitchen into an online format, if you've had some successes or challenges you want to talk about in that format.
So there was a South African company called Get Smarter that approached us years ago. They basically said, we're at Harvard, MIT, Oxford, Cambridge. We're doing a lot of online stuff. We'd like to offer Stanford the opportunity. We scoped out some topics that we think might work, and here's 10 topics, and nutrition was one of them. And Charles Prober said, Christopher, you want to be the guinea pig here? And I said, bring it on. I will try this. And as of this year, I have taught Nutrition 101 to Hum Bio undergrads for 24 consecutive years. I haven't missed a year yet. And to be honest, the slides don't change that much. There's still 20 amino acids. There's still the same number of fatty acids. There's still the same glucose, fructose, and galactose. So it's not a lot of work to teach it after 24 years. And I have a lot of slides. And I said, I'm going to data dump the slides on you, you online company, you, and we'll do a bunch of videos. And so 7 years later, 4,000 people have taken the online nutrition course, and they get a certificate for it. It's 8 weeks of material. You can't really translate that certificate into much of anything, although it has. We've heard back from many of them. Some started businesses. Some did go to graduate school. Some of them, it shifted their lives. And just recently, it's interesting that you invited me just now, because they said, we've had a lot of demand to address obesity and nutrition and GLP-1s and bariatric surgery. Where should people turn now? Should they turn to surgery or drugs or nutrition? So just this past 2 weeks, we shot another 20 videos. 10 of them were me talking head looking at a teleprompter. 10 of them are me interviewing an endocrinologist and a dietitian and a behavioral psychologist and a sleep doctor and a microbiologist, bringing in all the different domains that could affect appetite and mental health and lead to obesity and help somebody lose some weight. And so we're now creating, it isn't finished yet, it's like it's in process, but it was so satisfying seeing how many people took this nutrition online course around the world. And we're going to sort of stack this obesity and nutrition course on top of it, offering it maybe as a package deal that we're addressing another topic that we got demand for. And there's so many amazing Stanford colleagues that can present a different perspective. I present the nutrition perspective, but there's so many other critical perspectives that go with food and behavior and mental health and depression, et cetera. So we've been having a blast doing online things with the Stanford Center for Teaching and Learning.
I have a quick question going off of that. Have you had to kind of change your thoughts or anything, or are students more interested in nutrition with the rise of GLP-1s, or like talking about how that affects nutrition at all? Like, all the different things they have out there now where people are losing weight and quickly with these GLP-1s. Is that something you've been studying?
So I haven't studied it personally, and I haven't really gotten any feedback from students. I will say in the last few months, I have seen things not directed at me, but I've just been reading them like, hey, all you weight loss researchers, your job is done. It's over. We're putting GLP-1s in the water. All the stuff that you've struggled with for 5 decades won't be useful anymore. Your job is too bad. And I really don't believe that at all. So what we're seeing now is there's enough time has gone by for GLP-1s that 50% are off after a year and 80% are off after 2 years. So there is a pipeline of new drugs that may be addressing some of the challenges they're having. But the people on GLP-1s some of them are very malnourished. The reason they're losing so much weight is they're not eating.
Yeah.
You can't just not eat and be healthy. Great that you're losing some weight, but if the reason you're losing weight is because you're losing all these pounds of stored energy because you're not eating, that means you're not getting all the vitamins and minerals you need. So if you were to compare that to bariatric surgery, everyone who does bariatric surgery is on vitamin and mineral supplementation for life. So if you had high cholesterol and you got prescribed a statin drug, that's not for the week or the month. You're on a statin drug for life. That's the way that drug is designed. And the GLP-1s, in theory, are for life. When you stop taking the drugs, the weight will come back on. So like bariatric surgery, I just interviewed a dietitian about this. It's not if you're malnourished, it's when you get malnourished, this is the thing that we're going to need you to do. So there's actually new interesting nutrition questions about how would you eat that little and stay nourished? And could you use this as an opportunity to lower the dose or maybe someday get off? If you did, you would not be able to go back to your old behaviors.
Yeah.
Because the weight would all come back on. So that's a pretty fresh topic with lots to learn. I haven't studied it yet, but it's impossible to avoid it.
Yeah. Very popular these days.
Well, if we have any other questions, I have one last one. Anybody has any ones they want to add?
Softball, right? You're going to throw me.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Easy one.
Yeah. So as someone who teaches at the intersection of biology, behavior, and environment, what is one piece of advice you have for faculty or curriculum designers who are training the clinicians of tomorrow? So an easy question.
Yeah. And really it's come from my collaboration with chefs. So after years and years of nutrition and understanding metabolic pathways that make people's eyes glaze over, everybody loves to eat delicious food. So my favorite new partner is working with the Culinary Institute of America, where we're doing experiments where the focus of the food is deliciousness. And it actually kind of brings up how cool the teaching kitchen is, because if you did learn all the metabolic biochemical pathways, and then you said, hey, patient, go to the store and buy the thing that will make the Krebs cycle function properly. It's like, what? Oh, sorry. What I really meant to say was go to the salad bar and get this fresh produce. And so the idea of making food, bringing the joy and pleasure back and not making it so punitive and so restrictive. And you really can eat deliciously and healthfully and well for the planet if you combine some of these things that we've been looking at for the last 2 decades. And the more I work on it, the more I see the intersection. They can all be there. So treating them all separately is certainly more problematic than saying, let's have joy and pleasure in food. And I can find a way that it will be good for your diabetes, cancer, or heart disease, and it will save the planet. Doc, actually all aligns quite nicely as a plant-rich diet. Not exclusively, plant-rich diet.
Yeah, that sounds like a great message to be showing people. Really fun, like you can enjoy yourself and be healthy at the same time.
Thanks for helping me spread the word.
Right. We can wrap up then. So thanks for joining us for this episode. If you'd like to explore more conversations like this, you can find our episodes on the EdTech YouTube channel and other major podcast platforms. To learn more about our work with faculty in educational technology at Stanford School of Medicine, visit our EdTech site or reach out to our team. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Makes me hungry.
It should. Yes.